Hello, I'm Lorette Ligon, President of the Jacksonville Onslow Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the Chamber membership and our Board of Directors, I want to thank you for joining us for our Forum Onslow. The Chamber works with government agencies on issues that affect our business community. We monitor legislative issues that impact local business. We promote partnerships between business, government, military, and education. And we use these forums to create awareness on topics that are important to our entire community, such as the election of those that represent us on the state and local level. Our sponsor for this Meet the Candidates Forum is Jones Onslow Electric Membership Corporation. I would like to invite Steve Goodson, VP for Communications and Business Strategy for Jones Onslow, to please come forward.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Board of Directors of Jones Onslow and our CEO, Gary Ray, I just want to tell you guys, we're proud that we can sponsor this event of Meet the Candidates Forum, the NC House of Representatives, District 14. That's a mouthful. Events like this align with Jones Onslow and our core values, but most importantly, they hark back to one of the 7 cooperative principles that we run our business by, and that is concern for community. With that, I want to thank you guys for taking the time today to engage in this crucial dialogue with individuals aspiring to lead our community, right, in Raleigh. So this Candidates Forum is a testimony to your and our commitment to fostering informed decision-making and promoting civic engagement. So with that said, thank you again for those attending, for those viewing, and let's make the most of this invaluable opportunity that we have to engage with those aspiring to lead us into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And now I'm going to turn it over to our moderators, Mr. Elliott Potter and Mr. Glenn Harding. Gentlemen.
Thank you very much. And candidates, thank you for being a part of this. We have some basic rules for our event today, and we want to share them with everyone. This is a forum and not a debate. We're asking you to address the questions posed to you and that you address the audience and not address each other necessarily. All questions will be general in nature and suitable for all candidates. Opening remarks are 90 seconds. The candidates are asked to state their names, provide background information to introduce yourself, including where you reside and your current occupation. We also ask that you give us an idea about why you're running for office. We will alternate the order of questioning because of the matter of today with the 2 of you. We have 2 rebuttal cards for each of you to talk at that time if you want to call attention to something that you wish to address after the exchange of both answers have been made. Rebuttals will be limited to 60 seconds and can be used during the questions, not for the opening or closing statements. You'll also be called on for a closing statement of no more than 90 seconds. And we will have a system that lets you know how you're on time. You can see the monitors in front of us here. We'll have that counted down. As it gets closer to that red, we ask that you go ahead and continue, just finish your sentence, and if you would give time at the end of that as it was. And we're very proud of the decorum that candidates and our audience have exhibited over the years. And we've been doing this forum. It's a wonderful tradition, and we respectfully ask that we honor it to keep the program moving and fair. We're asking the audience to please refrain from applause during the program. We're hoping to keep today's session to around this 45 minutes to an hour. So please try not to disturb the proceedings if you have to move around. And with no questions from you folks, we'll get started then. And I introduce my colleague, Elliott Potter.
Okay, well, opening statements. We'll start with Mr. Cleveland, and then we'll start with a round of questions.
Thank you. It's nice to be here today with you all to put forth some of my views. I've served in the legislature under Democrat power and under Republican power, and guarantee you it's much more fun doing it under Republican power. But we have taken the state from being insolvent to being wealthy. And we've done it by aggravating a lot of people and making some other people happy. But we have improved the state. We're in the top 10 in business recognition for a state to do business in. Best state for women businesses, best state for men. We have come a long way. since I first went up to the legislature, and I have enjoyed it, and I want to continue. I live here in Jacksonville, over at Campbell Place by the university, and I'm a conservative. All the conservative organizations across the board rate me at 90% or more in their ratings, and I plan on continuing that. You're looking at what you get. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say, and if y'all can't live with that, vote for the other guy.
Mr. Gable.
Hi, thanks for hosting me today. I'm really glad to be here. My name is Wyatt Gable. I'm running for the NC House, District 14. I graduated from White Oak High School. I live off Piney Green Road near Hunters Creek Middle School. I currently attend East Carolina University. I'm a junior there. I'm also the president of Turning Point USA. Turning Point is a conservative nonprofit that believes in the First Amendment, Second Amendment, God, limited government, capitalism. So I want to bring all those things to Onslow County and District 14. I really got into politics in high school with all the COVID stuff. I really realized that none of it was about safety. It was all about control, and it got way worse when I got to college. If you weren't vaccinated, you had to get tested every week, and if you didn't get tested, they'd turn off your student ID, so you couldn't eat at the dining hall, you couldn't get into your dorm, you couldn't do anything. So that really quickly opened my eyes to how poorly run our education system is and how much solutions and how much fixing it needs right now. So I really just want to be able to help make a difference in people's lives. I don't want to be someone that people don't feel like they can come to. I always want to be there for you and answer your questions whenever you have an issue. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I guess we'll start this round of questions with you, Mr. Gable. If you were elected, or in your case, when you get the chance, Mr. Cleveland, re-elected to the House, and you could introduce a single piece of legislation that was guaranteed passage in the next session, what would it be?
For me, the biggest thing would be, like I just mentioned, fixing the education system. I think you got to get back to teaching your students the simple things in life, like home economics, shop, auto repair, carpentry, things like that, so our students are prepared for the real world. Because the modern day education system just preaches, if you don't go to college, you're not going to amount to anything, which is not true. There's so many other paths you can take in life, and you need to be prepared for that. And I think our education system needs to work on that. Another thing along with the education system is prioritizing physical education, because when those rates go down, obesity, suicide, depression, substance abuse all go up. So you need to be able to prioritize having kids participate in gym class and in sports. And then along with that is you got to get back to teaching kids that America is the greatest country on the face of the earth. Sure, we have flaws, but there's no better place to live in the world.
Thank you.
Mr. Cleveland?
Okay.
I understand you to say guaranteed passage.
Pardon me, it was guaranteed passage.
There is nothing in the General Assembly that's guaranteed.
But we're going to imagine that there is.
That's awful hard. Many of the things my opponent here has mentioned have already been addressed by the General Assembly. And we're working on making sure that these things are, we've put them in law, but making sure that the people responsible follow them. I'm sure you've read where there's a couple of school districts in the state that have ignored our law on parental rights. Not ignored it, but they're not enforcing it the way that it should be. To sit here and say that I have something that could be guaranteed to pass in the House or the Senate or anyplace else would be a total misnomer. But I will continue to work to make sure North Carolina is a better state.
Okay. We're going to ask you now about something that has been at the topic of the other forums that were being held as part of this series, and it's about growth in Onslow County. As you both know, it's been a significant amount of growth, and it's had some taxing issues on some of the developments that have taken place with roads and other things that have happened. And it just gives us also the stresses that come to the school system as a result of that. And as you know, the newest elementary school cost $44 million to build in Onslow County. What is your opinion about how the state could help in this way, or if there should be involvement in the state in this way of providing some relief or guidance as to how Onslow County should deal with its growth.
Onslow County should live within its means. That's the first thing I've got to say. Transportation funding is and has been a problem with the advent of electric vehicles, increased gas mileage and all that stuff. And we've been trying to address it in a multitude of different ways. We've raised the tax on, I guess they don't call it a tax, but anyway, the cost of registering an electric vehicle and gasoline vehicles. We've taken money out of the general fund and put into transportation. Local entities get money from the state to do road repairs, and I myself have become involved in some projects and got them taken care of. Developments, if people pay attention and make sure the developer puts the road system in, builds the road system to state standards, they will be taken care of. Problem is, they don't.
All right, Mr. Gable.
In terms of roadways and the growth in our community, I definitely think, obviously, growth is a good thing. You need growth to survive and for people to increase their wages, have a better life to live. So if we're needing the growth and the growth is going to continue here, one of the things I'd like to do is to help use my connections at ECU to try and help bring high-paying jobs to the area because we don't have nearly as many as we should. In terms of being able to handle the growth, I think, like George said, if you can spend responsibly, which is the most important thing with all the money, do not spend with outside of your means. But if you can grow within it and be able to sustain it, then absolutely, because our community is growing, whether it's Camp Lejeune or the industries in the area. We need to help support them because more jobs means more money, and then you can help the people that already live here. In terms of being able to handle that growth and keep people around, tourism is a huge part of Onslow County because of Camp Lejeune, and I think you need to have taxes that lower on the people that live here so they can feel that they can stay and not be pushed out, and that's something I would definitely recommend.
Okay. And I guess you will get this question first as well. North Carolina has continued to expand legal gambling in the state. Just this week, the State Lottery Commission set a date to begin legal online sports betting. What is your view of the legal gambling issue, and how will you view future efforts to expand it?
Currently in our state, we have the North Carolina Education Lottery, which that money goes towards education, which is obviously a huge need for our state. But I think gambling it should be allowed, but I don't want it to just completely overtake our state. It shouldn't be the only thing or the only reason people come to us. If you have something like the Carolina Hurricanes, I know what they're doing. They've bought the land around the arena, and their plan is to make it like a metropolis of just entertainment, including gambling things, like you said. They've already partnered with certain organizations, and if it helps bring more money to the state, then absolutely. But I do not want it to just become the only thing that our state is known for. There's so many great things in North Carolina. Gambling cannot be the only thing, but again, if it brings more money to the state, then absolutely.
Mr. Cleveland.
The education lottery is a misnomer, but I will not delve into that. I'm not for gambling, never have been. And gambling brings other problems with it. Crime, families get ruined. It's not worth the money, quote unquote, that it brings into the state. You wind up spending, if not as much more across the board in hidden costs than what it'll bring in. If we have taken the state and lowered the taxes like we have and brought the prosperity to the state that we have, when people say we need to get the income from gambling, I cringe. I've never voted for it. I won't vote for it. We stopped sports betting in one session and it steamrolled in the next one. And you all are aware of what they tried to do in the budget this past cycle. It is not good for the state. It's not good for the citizens, period.
All right. And remember, if you all want to say something after the other is finished, you can use your cards as you would to do that. Onslow County has some remarkable mental health resources, but there are still some huge gaps and a lack of awareness and services for our community members in distress. Homelessness has increased in Onslow County particularly with the lack of affordable housing, and the need to help is clear on that. What thoughts might you have on mental health and more resources that can be provided or encouraged in some way to make those happen to help our community?
Recently, maybe it was last budget cycle, we had a mental health facility built here, a small one, in the state. This budget cycle, I got, I don't know, 130,000 or something for the hospital to build up some of their mental health care. It's a problem. It's a huge problem, and we're well aware of it. The Military Affairs Commission worked diligently down in the Fayetteville and Wilmington area to get a child facility done for mental health. So it's an ongoing problem. We're well aware of it, and we're addressing it, not to the satisfaction of many people, including me, but it's being addressed, and it will continue to be addressed.
Mr. Gable.
I definitely think mental health is a big problem in today's society, with the internet being a huge issue. If you look, once the internet was created, depression, things like that have gone skyrocketed, and I think that's a big part of it. In our community, I think we need to be able to have the resources that we mentioned, like being able to provide the services that people need. But again, the budget, speaking on the budget of it, is speaking of $130,000. It's a lot of money, but trying to get that money is tough, but it needs to be done, because people should not have to run around and worry about having to have a mental breakdown or call a suicide hotline or something for their needs, because they need to be met before they get to that stage. And I would definitely be open to trying to get more funding and resources to help people in the community.
Mr. Gable, again, you lead off here. The North Carolina General Assembly has passed substantial changes to the state's election laws, most of which will be coming into effect here during these coming elections. Some of those changes have been challenged, struck down in the courts. Some still stand. Some critics say the laws were too restrictive and will make legal voting more difficult, while others say they were necessary to safeguard election security. What do you say?
I think they're absolutely necessary. I mean, if you think for whatever reason that it's unfair for someone to have an ID to try and vote, that's just, I don't know why you would say that. One of my roommates, his grandma died, and she somehow voted in the last election. She was a Republican her whole life, and she somehow voted Democrat. So if we have election laws here to be able to safeguard that, then I'm all for it, whether it's voter ID or what it is that's already been passed. But you absolutely need that, because there should be no fraud in any election.
Mr. Cleveland?
A good portion of that law was written by me, and I agree with it. Voting is a privilege, and it's a right. And anyone that says they can't get an ID to vote is lying through their teeth. You can't function in this society without an ID, period. Making voting easier is not the way to go. Making people responsible to go vote is the way to go. We do everything in this society to take away individual responsibility. That's wrong, and it has been wrong, and I try to fight it. If I had my way, we'd have one voting day. At least cut early voting down to a week and be sensible. But others don't see it that way, and the courts are not happy with many things we do, but we keep shoveling.
Well, back a little bit on the growth issue. Flooding can be found after some major events in Onslow County. Do you support funding from the Preventative Storm Damage Maintenance Fund that could be used for stream cleaning?
I'm sorry, would you?
It's okay. We're talking now about the Preventative Storm Damage Maintenance Program that the state has. Would you support using some of that money to assist with stream cleaning that helps avoid some flooding?
I believe the state funded stream cleaning and put money out for the counties to use for stream cleaning. And if they don't have enough, I have no problem with taking some of that. I think it was $20 million that we put in the flood mitigation. There's a committee out there looking at that now and trying to figure out the best way to do it. And it's going to cost a heck of a lot more than $20 million. We're looking at hundreds of millions. But it's something that has to be done, and after I'm long gone, hopefully it'll be accomplished.
Thank you. Mr. Gable.
I would definitely be in favor of using some of that money. An example, when I believe it was a day or two after Christmas, we had a big rainstorm come through and we were trying to get to Raleigh, and took quite an extra bit of time because of all the rain. Roads are flooded and ditches are full and whatnot, and driving through a swamp over a creek, you can see where it's all backed up at. So I would absolutely be in favor of using some of those funds to help keep our roadways safe and help clear out so the rainwater has somewhere to go, because that's kind of the whole point of that money, is to help keep our streams clean and keep water flowing in the right direction. Sitting on a road is not where it should be.
Thank you.
Mr. Gable, I'll ask you this first. What is your assessment of the current state of North Carolina's economy? And what can the General Assembly do to improve the business climate, particularly here in eastern North Carolina?
You said the economy?
The economy, yes, sir.
I think our current state, even under the Biden administration, we're flourishing. We've gained another electoral vote because so many people are moving here. In terms of trying to improve it, I definitely want to try and help lower taxes all around the board, and the best way to do that is spend money responsibly, because we want to make businesses the state more business friendly and more friendly for people to move here. If property taxes are out of control, you're just going to keep pushing people away to live here. So I think trying to allow people to move here, whether it's lower taxes or more incentives to move here and give people more reason to move here, then I'm all for that. And that's what we need to keep doing in this state.
Mr. Cleveland.
Would you repeat the
Yes,
question,
sir.
please?
What is your assessment of the current state of North Carolina's economy? And what can the General Assembly do to improve the business climate, particularly here in eastern North Carolina?
Well, even with the federal government's dealings in the economy, we're doing well, and surprisingly well. We have funded to the tune of $500 million in innovation group that is going to start working with the colleges, and one of their priorities is to work in eastern North Carolina. They're supposed to actually set up a group here in the eastern part of North Carolina to try to bring forth some things that the universities are working on to help people open businesses and grow the economy. That's one thing we did this past session. And I believe as long as we keep a business climate that we have, eastern North Carolina will continue to benefit, and actually, as people look at us, will grow.
Okay. Mr. Cleveland. There are more than 5,300 youth in Onslow County between 16 and 24 years old who are neither in school or working. That's 10.6% of the county's population. And it represents a real potential to save this group from a life of dependence on the government, or dependence or lacking the ability to live their full potential. Would you support specialized efforts that would help reduce this specific type of opportunity youth?
Yes. Off the top of my head, I couldn't say what they would be, but I would support funding for such a program. Matter of fact, I would try to make it mandatory to make sure that the people 16 to 20 would have to attend if they want to get any government regress. I'm surprised that it's that many. That's very depressing. It is. And again, individual responsibility. These people should understand that they have to take care of themselves, and they should be doing something along those lines, particularly schooling. Without a basic high school education, which is nothing like we got years ago, they're really behind the eight ball. So yes, I'd support a program for that.
Mr. Gable.
Could you repeat the question?
I can. Excuse me. There are more than 5,300 youth who are between 16 and 24 years old in Onslow County who are neither in school or working. That's 10.6% of the county's population, and it represents a real potential to save this group from a life of dependence or governmental assistance and lacking their ability to live to their full potential. Do you support specialized efforts to help reduce this number of opportunity youth?
I would, and going back to what I said earlier, you could easily lower that number if you were to implement things in the education system, like home economics and things like that, so these students are prepared for themselves and know and understand what they are doing and how the effects of the real world can take a drastic toll on their life. Because too many kids don't understand, you know, there's a life after high school, and it's a real world. It's not the sheltered walls of high school, and they don't understand that. And I feel if you have that implemented in school, it'll be able to help them and they'll be prepared. But I definitely would support a program to help those students get back on their feet, because everybody can make a mistake. And if you're able to get back on your feet and not have to rely on the government for the rest of your life, I would definitely support that.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Gable, and then we'll go and see what Mr. Cleveland thinks. Another area of the law that is changing throughout the country is the regulation of marijuana. What model for marijuana legalization, if any, do you feel is right for North Carolina?
I don't think recreational use should be allowed. There's just too many things that could go wrong with that. Whether it's, you know, driving under the influence of something, that's just going to lead to a whole lot of crashes and deaths that are completely unnecessary and needless just because someone wants to get high. So I definitely would not be in favor of anything like that. I know it can be a money boost for states like Colorado, but I would not be in favor of anything like that. There's too many problems that come along with it.
Mr. Cleveland?
I'm not for any form of legalization of marijuana. I don't care what all the so-called experts and the rest of them say. It's a gateway drug to other drugs. Always has been, always will be. Medical marijuana can be synthesized into a pill. If someone needs it for medical use, get a prescription and use it. I just, you know, our society has deteriorated so much over the past 80 years that it's since World War II. It's mind-boggling. And we keep doing things at a legislative level to move it along. Kind of dumb in my outlook. So if you want to try to maintain what we have and get back what we've lost, marijuana is not the way to go.
So you've kind of referred to this a little bit in some of the comments that you've made before. There are many young people who come to our area because of the military and without an understanding of how local government works and serves them. Frequent stories of homeowners who are challenged by roads not built to standards that you've mentioned, or a lack of understanding of who's responsible for drainage issues when they buy a new home. It makes the news and gets a lot of attention, but it doesn't resolve the issue. Do you have a thought as to how we can help share more information that makes an informed buyer of a home that's a young military couple so they understand what's going on?
Well, I could point the finger at the realtors and say, hey, you ought to be telling these kids what's happening in the neighborhood. But, you know, I don't want to get stones thrown at me. Off the top of my head, I honestly can't. I know there are numerous laws that require disclosures for different things. But, you know, where do you go? Where does it end? People learn by experiences. I've had bad ones in my life, and I'm sure everyone in the room has had them. And once you learn, you stay away from that. At least if you're smart, you stay away from it. So I off the top of my head, honestly couldn't tell you which way we could go to resolve that problem. They could be encouraged by realtors to do some research, but that's an individual choice.
Mr. Gable?
I think making sure people that, I mean, this is just a personal thing, but making sure you know what you're getting yourself into is just a big thing, and trying to encourage people that. But I will once again go back to the education thing. If you were to have something in schools right now that teaches students how they can get loans, understanding how a housing market works and interest rates work, that would be key to people being able to make smart decisions to buy homes in North Carolina, and especially in Onslow County.
Thank you.
Some people in North Carolina have advocated for making almost all political or elected races partisan. That would mean, of course, elections set up according to party. That would impact local municipal boards such as the Jacksonville City Council. What are your feelings about such a proposal?
I mean, I think party lines are good and bad, especially in today's area, because it's bad because people will just see a certain letter by the name and they'll just vote for that person. They have no clue who they are. But at the same time, we've kind of run on the party system forever, and it's how our presidential races work. It's how everything works, and it seems to be the best because you have a cluster of people that have similar ideologies in a primary, and then you can select the best one from there. And then you have a general where you have the two opposing parties going at each other, and that seemed to have been working out decently well for a couple hundred years now. So,
Mr. Cleveland?
An observation on the last question. High schools are obligated to have financial literacy courses taught. I'm all for two parties, or three or four, whatever. I think everyone, municipality all the way up, should be run by parties. Well, I won't go there. I think it's a good system. I think it works well. And if you look at persons with an R by their name, you expect them to be more in the conservative spectrum than the liberal spectrum. Not always true, but you expect that. So it gives the voter 85% of which don't pay, probably 90% of which or more don't pay attention what's going on until 2 weeks or a week before an election. At least it gives them a starting point.
All right. Well, on the area of economic development and quality of life, 10% of Onslow homes still cannot get digital broadband at this time. What's your stance on expansion of digital infrastructure and broadband that can be encouraged by the legislature?
Broadband, and you said what else?
There's 10% of Onslow
No.
County.
Did you say visual?
No, digital.
Oh, digital.
I'm sorry, sir.
My hearing is getting worse.
It's okay.
Okay. We have spent hundreds and billions of dollars expanding broadband. I wasn't aware we had a problem here in Onslow County. I thought most of the problem was out west. And actually, I said we, and the federal government just threw another billion into it. So it's being worked on, and it's being done. One of the big problems is where are these people going to hang their lines? And there was a big fight between the electric companies and the satellite or the internet people years ago that I got in the middle of, and I was sorry I did that. But anyway, it's being worked on, and I'm appalled at the amount of money we've put into it, the tax dollars.
What? Mr. Gable.
could you repeat the question?
There's 10% of Onslow homes who cannot still get digital broadband at this time. What's your stance on the expansion of digital infrastructure and broadband to benefit that last 10%?
Our world is digital nowadays. It's just the way it is. I would be open to the idea of being able to increase and help those people get the broadband, but I don't think it should be paid for on someone else's dollar, because people around the community, they pay for their own broadband and internet and all that they own. And then if you're going to up a tax just so someone else can have it, then you're going to take it away from someone else. And I just don't think that would be fair. So in terms of having a look at the budget and trying to find ways and encourage the companies that can provide these services to help open up and expand what they do offer, then absolutely. But I don't think it should be the state's job to try and spend hundreds of millions and if not billions of dollars trying to expand that on the taxpayer's dollar.
Thank you.
Yeah, before you go forward, if you happen to know where in Onslow County this 10% is, let me know.
To be candid, there's a map that can be shared for
Well,
that.
send me the map.
Absolutely.
Let me turn back to the issue of redistricting. Of elections. Redistricting of state legislative and congressional districts has created quite a stir. It generates court cases and even some confusion among voters. What should be the point of redistricting in your view? Has redistricting become a case of to the victors go the spoils that places partisan politics ahead of demographics and in some cases logic?
Well, the whole point of redistricting is to make sure each district has a fair and roughly equal amount of people in it. And I think that should be the purpose of it. But in terms of the redistricting and like you said, something the winners get to decide. I mean, it's like that in every state, and sometimes it's Republican, sometimes it's Democrat. It's just how it is. As long as the priority and the most important thing of the redistricting is to make sure that the districts have an equal amount of people and representation, then that's the most important thing for me.
Mr. Cleveland, what you think about redistricting?
It's a good thing. It has to be done every, 10 years, and it is to keep equal proportion as the Supreme Court has required. What I really ponder once in a while is the 100 years that the other party was in charge and redistricted to stay in charge, nobody ever said a word. And when we got in charge, all of a sudden it's terrible. Fine and dandy. We fight the battles out in the court. We spend millions of dollars needlessly. And some we win, some we lose, but redistricting needs to be done.
All right. Well, state law requires email to be a public record and accessible for the public for local and state government officials. However, recent action has exempted some emails that General Assembly members from that same standard. What's your opinion of that action that was taken?
I don't think it should have been done. It was snuck in the budget. I don't know of any other person that I'm aware of, my peers, that knew about it. We're a public body. We do the public's business. Our business should be transparent. And not only in the legislature, in every public body. We have problems with licensing boards that are not doing their job, and we can't find out what's going on because they're protected by privacy. The HIPAA stuff that the federal government has shoved on us has hidden some really terrible things in the health area. I don't think anything should be private if you deal with the government. Now, with that being said, sensibly, there has to be some things that are held private. But privacy is something that needs to be done judiciously, carefully, and with respect for everybody. And what was done in the budget was wrong.
Thank you. Mr. Gabe.
I think in terms of what goes on in the government and anything that involves taxpayer dollars should be transparent and be seen by the public, because I definitely want to know where my money's being spent whenever I pay my taxes, and I know everyone else does as well. So anything that involves the government or taxpayer dollars should absolutely be able to be seen by the public.
Thank you.
Well, I guess this door's already been opened, so I'll walk through it. When North Carolina General Assembly finally did pass a state budget 3 months after the old budget had expired, Governor Cooper said he would allow it to become law so Medicaid expansion could be implemented. But he said he considered it a bad budget that seriously shortchanges our schools, prioritizes power grabs, keeps shady backroom deals secret, and blatantly violates the Constitution. What is your view of the state budget? And do any of the governor's criticisms have merit?
I think the most important thing with the budget is getting it done on time. I recently spoke with the Onslow County School Safety Officer, and he was telling me that they can't buy anything for the schools right now because it won't get here in time because they don't have the money in time. The budget's done 3-4 months late, and then you can't spend the money, and then you're going to lose that money in next year's budget. So that's the most important thing, is being able to get it accomplished and completed on time. In terms of spending in the budget, I think just being able to spend responsibly is the biggest thing. You can't waste money and spend it on things that are not necessary. And then in terms of the budget, I don't know every single ins and outs of the budget, but I mean, I definitely know there's things that could be improved upon. But as a whole, I mean, there's not too much you can change because most years it's going to be the same thing.
Mr. Cleveland.
Mr. Cleveland.
Oh,
answer
would you
Excuse me,
repeat
I'm
the
sorry.
question, please?
That's all right. I just wanted to, what's your generally the view of the budget? I know you mentioned that there was one provision that was passed that was snuck into the budget, talking about the transparency issue with some of the recent happenings with email and being hidden from the public, that sort of thing. Sometimes they pass a budget, you don't know everything that's in it. Basically, what's your view of the budget, And those harsh things that Governor Cooper has had to say about it, do any of them have merit?
I'm not sure what part of the budget he thinks is unconstitutional. Medicaid expansion, I would have never voted for. And matter of fact, I have not voted for. I think it was wrong. You know, when you have a business and you bring in money just to keep your cash flow going, it's not a good operation. And that's what Medicaid expansion is to several hospitals. There are many things that show up in the budget that me and, except a person and a few people around him that put it in there, know about until after the fact. And sometimes we catch them before they get out, and sometimes we don't. The budget is written by committees, and I have one of those committees, and it's a process that has worked well, and it's going to keep on working well. But things happen that you don't discover until after the fact, and then you try to correct them. So,
I apologize for interrupting there, myself.
you're almost
In the
me.
discussion, but with the county commission candidates and the school board candidates, obviously the issue of safe schools has presented itself. Is there anything that you think that should be done by the General Assembly to assist these local boards, or things that you think should be helpful to give to them?
And what area are you looking for? Physically, monetarily? You know, we have school resource officers who are there, from what I could see, are more to keep the kids in line than anything else. I have no heartburn with arming teachers, arming a principal. I have no heartburn with that at all. I think everyone should have a weapon as long as they're legally capable of handling it. But gun-free zones are an invitation to any idiot, some mentally disturbed person, to do what he wants to do, period. And I, for the life of me, have never been able to figure out how intelligent people don't understand that. 97% of mass shootings in this country were all done in gun-free zones. Stupidity is stupidity. I don't care how you put lipstick on a pig, it's still stupidity.
Thank you. Mr. Gable.
I think going back to what I just said with the school safety superintendent of the county is getting the budget done on time, because we just implemented weapons detectors in the schools, but his concern was we might not get them in time in this budget because they don't have the money in time. So making sure we can do that for our county and our school board is so they have the money to spend on the safety resources. I would definitely try and be in favor of finding more money for SRO officers at school. I mean, I know that was a big help at our school at White Oak. I would, if there's someone else you could find that was, you know, mentally stable and absolutely capable of carrying a firearm to protect people, absolutely, because if someone's going to shoot up a school, a sign that says this is a gun-free zone is going to be far more enticing than having a sign that says there are armed teachers willing to defend our students with a firearm. So that's the way I look at it.
All right, I think we're going to ask you a couple more questions before we get to the summary, but I have a question for you about the challenges that are facing families who can't find affordable or quality child care. And those problems haven't gone away since COVID. The implications impact not only children and their families, but in many cases, employers who face issues finding workers because some parents choose to stay home rather than take the modest pay that many jobs might offer, or even child care jobs offer. How can state government address staffing shortages and other issues that are creating this situation?
I think a big problem in our modern day society and how the world has changed is you used to have a nuclear family. You'd have a mom and a dad and the family. And back in the day, you know, the man would go out and work and the woman would be able to stay home with the kids. Now, the modern day government has made that so everybody has to work because taxes are increased, everything's more expensive, and it's just a plan to try and destroy the nuclear family, because that means the government has more control over people. So I would hopefully try and find a way that jobs can provide childcare if necessary for people if they absolutely need it. But I mean, obviously you can't have kids in school if they're 2 years old. But if students are in school, that's the most important thing. And then after school programs like sports or clubs or whatever. But if it's younger health or childcare for younger kids, trying to find a solution to help ease that problem would definitely be something. But it can't come at a crippling cost to the budget and spend hundreds of millions and billions of dollars on it.
Mr. Cleveland, your thoughts on state child care, staffing shortages in child care, the affordability, and maintaining quality?
We have, and I think it was this last budget, or maybe it was a separate bill, we changed the law so that the child care facilities around military installations could get federal dollars for child care. During the pandemic, we raised the state money that was put in to child care to pay workers more money. Honestly don't remember if that's going to continue on or not, but we're well aware of it. And it's something that needs to be addressed. But it's a choice for most people. Some people just have to work and they have children and they're really behind the eight ball. But I'm open to any sensible solutions that we can come up with to help people get proper child care.
Thank you.
So, for the last question, we want to ask you, what would you do to increase conversation as needed with local leaders? There's a conversation that had about school board people being in contact with you, about county commissioners being in contact with you. What have you done? What would you do to facilitate ongoing conversations with local elected officials?
If a local elected official has a problem, he can contact me anytime he wants. I don't go looking for trouble. I don't stick my nose in the city's business. I don't stick my nose in the county's business. I don't stick my nose in town business. If they have a problem and want my help, I'm more than glad to help them out. But I'm not going to stir the pot.
Thank you. Mr. Gay.
I think any way possible you can get people to be on the same page and be able to communicate. That's important. And I mean, communication's a big thing in the GOP here. I mean, I know this isn't a Republican debate forum, but this is the Republican primary here. One of the biggest things on the problem with the GOP is there's too many individuals that, someone has a problem with someone else and all this, and no communication gets done, and that's why our voting turnout here suffers, and then I feel like that translates and corresponds to the elected officials. You have someone who might support this person, and then someone else might support this person, and because they don't like each other, then those candidates aren't going to like each other. And you just got to be able to set that stuff aside and be able to have conversations with each other, and anytime we can come together and solve the problems that our community challenges, then absolutely. So anyway, anyone wants to talk, whether it's with me, with the city council, county commissioners, anything, please do it, because that's the only way our community is going to be able to improve.
All right, Mr. Gable, it's your turn to lead us off with a closing statement. And I appreciate both of you candidates being so forthright and answering questions.
Well, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. Donald Trump once said that outsiders change the world, and the more a broken system tells you you're wrong, the more you must keep pushing ahead, the more you must believe that you're right. Ever since high school and through college, I've been told that I'm doing something wrong, whether it's not wearing a mask, not getting COVID vaccinated, being the Turning Point president, being on a college campus is just super liberal. And then now it's gone into me running for office. And it's, oh, you're too young, you can't do this. But they only say that because they have nothing else to attack me on, because I'm the best option in everything. So the more I can grow and can challenge everyone else in the broken system, the more I'm going to do that. I have a plan, I have a vision, I have the stomach and the grit to accomplish that goal. I do it every day on a college campus through Turning Point, trying to fight a liberal administration and all the liberal teachers and stuff. So no one's going to be better suited to solve all our problems and fight for our rights in the legislature. Thank you.
Mr. Cleveland.
I will say that I have enjoyed my time in the legislature. I like helping people when I have a clear cause to work after. And I enjoy it. I enjoy working with my peers, trying to make sure we do the right thing for the state and for the county, actually for the people of the state. And it's, as I said, I've enjoyed it. I even enjoyed it when I was working with Democrats. You know, when they were in charge, I managed to get a few things done. And I hope to continue doing that. I have been able to become, and I'm doing a little bragging here, to become someone whose peers listen to him when he opens his mouth. And it's very helpful when you're trying to stop something in the General Assembly that you know is wrong. And it's very helpful when you're trying to get something done that you favor. So I've enjoyed it. I've done what I think is right over the years, and I'll continue to do that as long as I'm allowed to serve. So just remember to vote for George.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you both.
All right. Candidates, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your time. Thank you to the City of Jacksonville for the use of these facilities and their media services. And those viewing today, if you missed any part of the Forum Onslow, you can check out the G10 website for rebroadcast times and dates. And remember, your vote is your voice in matters that are important to our schools, to our county, and to our state. Absentee ballot request forms are available online at the Onslow County Board of Elections website, as well as dates, times, and place for one-stop voting. Election Day is March 5, 2024, 6:30 a.m., 7:30 p.m. at your local precinct. On behalf of the Jacksonville Onslow Chamber of Commerce, thank you for joining our Meet the Candidates Forum. This concludes our program.